Today I am doing some terrain-scaping at the Hostlers building in Evanston. I will explain why I'm doing it, and I will show you how I'm doing it, starting right now. I'm Roy Smith. Thanks for joining me today. You know, sometimes we finish a project and then later on we discover that we need to redo it, or at least a part of it. Well, that's the case in the level of the land surface or terrain at the Hostlers building in my Evanston railroad complex. I'm going to show you why I need to change it. Then I'm going to show you how I'm changing it. I hope this will help you when you need to do the same kind of thing on your layout. I need to level the land surface here so that the building has a place to sit. Some people refer to this process as regrading. I call it terrain-scaping. Whatever you call it, the idea here will be to make the land flatter so that the Hostlers building will have a level place to sit. I will be using simple tools and materials to do this. And I will try to make the new terrain and the new vegetation blend with what already exists in this area of my layout. First, I want to show you the prototype at Evanston, Wyoming, and here it is in a state of complete ruin. But the first question I ask about the Hostlers building is this: who built it? I don't know who built it. It may have been the Union Pacific Railroad during the years before the UP turned the roundhouse and the rail yards over to the city of Evanston in the early 1970s. But maybe it wasn't the UP who built it, because the Hostlers building doesn't appear in older photos of the roundhouse. Or maybe it was built by one of the tank car repair companies that occupied the roundhouse from 1974 to 1998. After the UP turned the roundhouse over to the city of Evanston, the city leased it to a series of tank car repair companies until 1998, when the last of these companies, the Union Tank Car Company, moved to a new facility about a mile to the northwest of the roundhouse. Presumably, the tank car companies had hostlers who pushed the tank cars into the roundhouse where they were repaired. And I have a second question. Will the Hostlers building be restored along with the roundhouse, or will it be torn down? I don't know, but it doesn't appear in the architect's renovation plan. If you know who built it, and if you know whether it will be restored or torn down, be sure to let me know in the comments section down below. Now, as you may recall, I built the railroad complex on my layout last year over the course of 22 episodes. I will put a link to my Evanston playlist down below. This is what the railroad complex looked like at the end of that series. There was nowhere near enough space on my layout to replicate the complex accurately. All I could do was try to capture the feel of it. As you can see here, I used a photograph glued on the northern end of the roundhouse to depict the Hostlers building. Then, as I was finishing this project, I received yet another package of detailed parts for my layout from my friend Chris Perry in New Zealand. In that package, there was a 3D building flat. It was the Hostlers building. I showed it to you in a video called RPO, 5 Awesome Deliveries for My Model Railroad, which I uploaded in December. I will put a link to that video down below. As I said before, I used a photograph glued on the northern end of the roundhouse to depict the Hostlers building. Now I could glue Chris's Hostlers building directly onto the photograph. To the surprise of both Chris and me, the structure that Chris built was exactly the same size as the photo. But gluing it on top of the photo left a gap in the terrain under it, as you can see here. That gap is what I need to fix today. Let's get started. I have moved the turntable out of the way so that I can do the terrain-scaping without messing up the turntable. I never did glue it permanently in place, and I'm glad I didn't. Of course, there are various ways that I can proceed with this task, but here's the way I'm going to build up the terrain under the Hostlers building. I'm using white styrofoam and spackling paste. I'm starting with pieces of the white styrofoam contoured and glued in place. Next, I'm covering the white styrofoam with spackling paste. I could use sculpt mold to do this, but I prefer spackling paste for small jobs like this. No mixing, no messing, and no waiting 2 days for it to dry. I apply the spackling paste like this, using convenient disposable popsicle sticks. I smooth out and contour the spackling paste first by dipping my fingertip in water. Unlike Sculpt-A-Mold, spackling paste dries quickly. Soon it will be ready for painting. Now it's time to paint the terrain. As I paint it, my goal will be to match the color of the soil in the area that I am modeling. I really like to use these Woodland Scenics earth tone pigments. As usual, I begin with a base coat of yellow ochre. Once the base coat of yellow ochre has dried, I can apply the other colors. One of my favorites is burnt umber. It's dark, so I apply it lightly. And while it's still wet, I like to dab on some water. Doing this blends the colors while they are still wet. And now I apply thinly diluted stone gray here and there to create some contrast in the colors. Now after all of the colors have dried, I apply a very thinly diluted coat of white pigment to the entire area. This diluted pigment tones down the colors and further blends them together. The diluted white helps to make sure that the colors of the soil are light in color to match the soil of the area that I'm modeling. Next up, soil. For soils, I'm using the products you see here. After putting down white glue, I will take a pinch of each product in my fingertips and sprinkle it on. Each of the products has a light color, and I will try to apply them in a way to achieve some variation in the soil colors, because colors, and the vegetation which comes next, seldom consists of a single color. Next, vegetation. These are the ground covers that I'm going to use: blended turf, light green grass, and yellow grass. I apply them in the same way that I applied the soils, in spots to achieve variation, not a solid carpet of one color. Now, static grass. Static grass is tons of fun. I got myself a Woodland Scenics power supply for my static grass applicator. Using the standard 9-volt battery that normally is used in static grass applicators is a pain because you have to remove the battery when you put away the applicator. It's difficult to do this, but if you don't remove it, it could oxidize and ruin your applicator. Besides, a power supply seems to be much more powerful than a 9-volt battery. I put static grass in the applicator. I prefer to use static grass that is 2 and 4 millimeters tall on my layout. Anything taller seems to look too tall, both for end scale and for the area I'm modeling. I use light colors, especially light green and yellow, because remember, this is the effect I'm trying to achieve. I put down basing glue in spots where I want to put static grass. Oops, the glue is running and flows down the slope right into the turntable pit. I dab it up with a paper towel, although to be sure, some weeds and grass are growing in the pit on the prototype. But it's better to apply the glue with a brush so that it doesn't flow down the slope into the turntable pit. I place 2 feet of the anchor in the glue and attach the ground wire to the anchor. This carries a current which helps the static grass stand up straight. I turn on the applicator and begin to shake on the grass. The grass may be a little hard to see in the video, but I really like the effect that it has on the scene. A big improvement over ordinary vegetation ground covers. Lastly, I'm planting some shrubs. I dip the bottom of the shrubs in full-strength white glue and place them where I want them in the scene. There seem to be fewer shrubs in the roundhouse area than elsewhere in the railroad complex on the prototype. And there you have it. I have finished terrain-scaping under the hostler's building. And hopefully I've been able to capture the feel of the area I'm modeling while completing this task. Now that I want to tell you that I'm putting together another video that I hope to upload very soon. This video is about the sudden and unexpected appearance of a caboose on my modern era layout. In the video, I will tell you how it got there and what it's doing there. A big thanks to Jason of the Train Freak channel who sent it to me. Watch for that video coming soon. And if you still haven't seen my layout, a quick tour, there's a link to it down below. This video provides a brief overview of my model railroad. Thanks for letting me share the amazing hobby of model railroading with you once again. As always, I'm Roy Smith. Until next time, happy railroading.